racing, basically.
First up, let's take a look at the Autosport Caterham Academy, a championship open only to novice drivers.
The Caterham Academy is an interesting one. It's the sort of starting point of Caterham Motorsport's motorsport ladder that graduates through to road sports and up to super sports and then R300s. The Academy brings over 50 new drivers into motorsport every year, guys who haven't raced before. Sign up to the Academy, and Brands Hatch was their first actual circuit race. They've done some sprints, but the 50 guys out here today, this is their first circuit race.
Let's take a look at the grid then for the first race, and it's Elliott Norris on pole position, Charles Bowmont alongside, Achille Corbellati and Mark Lewis on row 2, Glenn Freeman and Matt Lowe on row 3, Paul Lewis and Simon Johnson on row 4. There are 26 cars on the grid ready for this Caterham Academy Group 1 race. And on board now with Elliott Norris from pole position, clean ahead of Charles Bowmont, who's had a sluggish getaway from second on the grid. So Norris leads the pack towards Paddock Hill Bend for the first time. First circuit race for these novice drivers, having done sprints so far in their first season. And we've got a spinner there coming out of Paddock Hill Bend from the leading pack. In fact, we've got two. So one of them is number 3, Paul Lewis, going round on the grass. The other one drops to the back of the field, as meanwhile the rest of them come charging into the Druids corner. The hairpin Matt Lowe in the number 17 car, dropping back from the third row of the grid. But he charged around the outside there into the tight hairpin to gain a couple of places back. Back on board then with the race leader, Elliott Norris. He's had an absolute fly here at the start of the race. He's already pulled nearly 2 seconds clear of the rest of the pack while they sort themselves out. 1 or 2 drops of rain starting to fall out there, and the track temperature a little bit cold for the time of year, so these cars will slide around a little bit in these early stages of the race. Paul Hawthorne there in the green number 99 car, just outside the top 10 on the grid, but he started to make some progress here. There's 11, Elliott Norris, the race leader. In second place, it's number 27, Achille Corbellati, the young Italian driver, over here as a student in motorsport engineering, and he's driving very well indeed as well at the start of this race. And then third, fourth and fifth, we've got number 7, Glenn Freeman. That might come under pressure though, that position, because in the inside goes number 82, Rob Chappell. Robert Chappell, who's been a leading light in the Caterham Academy Group 1 Championship so far this year. And he picks up a good move on the way into Druids corner there. A little bit slippy on board there, you can see, with the race leader Elliott Norris fighting away at the wheel as he comes out of Graham Hill Bend. Fires himself now up the Cooper Straight, but he's still got plenty of room behind him. 1 or 2 spots of rain now coming onto the lens of one of the many onboard cameras that is running on that car. And there he is on the way then into McLaren, coming up towards the end of lap number 2. Breathing space, building up as much advantage as he can in these early stages of the race, knowing that the weather might play a part as we move on into proceedings. Number 7 there, having dropped back a couple of places, is Glenn Freeman. Was running in the top 3 earlier on in this lap, but he's dropped back a little bit more, and into second place has come the number 82 car of Robert Chappell from 9th on the grid. So down to third goes number 27, Achille Corbellati, and number 77 there is Charles Bowmont, who started this race on the front row but dropped out of the top 6 early on. He's got a very good run coming up Elwood Hill on the brakes, and through he goes to pass Corbellati for third place at Druids. So 77 Charles Bowmont, the ex-army officer, on a mission to fight back up the order here. And there's battles all the way through the field. This is number 63, Frank Caldwell, under attack from number 8, Duncan Cundall-Curry, who's come from near the back of the grid and made up a good half dozen places in the early stages of this race. Right, the battle for second place is on. Both of these drivers fighting their way up the order on laps 2 and 3 of the race. Number 82, Robert Chappell, 28 years of age, from Norwich. Finished second in the opening event of the year, the sprint at the famous Aintree circuit. On board now with Charles Bowmont, and he's in third place. A little bit of weaving there just ahead of him as they approach the rise to Paddock Hill Bend, and late on the brakes is Bowmont. Through he goes for the first time of asking, or does he? No, he doesn't, because back around the outside of him comes number 82, Robert Chappell. This is number 49, David Allett, started 21st on the grid, but he's made good progress up now into the top 15 as he finds himself onto the start-finish straight. The pack, though, arriving up at Druids. Number 21 there in, number 55 spins. That's Simon Johnson, who started the race from the 4th row of the grid. Just lost the back end under braking into Druids, but he gathers it up quickly. Now here come the leaders, and they're all together, absolutely together. 3 abreast on the way into turn 1 at Paddock Hill Bend. It's number 11, though, that's got the lead of the race still. Elliott Norris, a little bit of a tag there from Charles Bowmont as he collects the right rear wheel of Robert Chappell. Robert didn't look too happy about that. Determined to hold on to his position. He breaks very late on the way into Druids, despite having the outside line. On board now with Charles Bowmont as they come out of Druids, drop back downhill. 1 or 2 drops of water starting to fall here. It's getting a little bit slick out there on the way to the left-hander at Graham Hill Bend, and it's all getting very twitchy. Run towards the edge of the curbs. Just a second now covering the top 3 cars as they find themselves up Cooper Straight into the left-hander at Surtees, and getting a bit sideways and out of shape there with the windscreen wipers now on is the second place car of Chappell. A little bit smoother behind him, number 77 Charles Bowmont needs to get a good run out of here now through Clark Curve to try and launch an attack on the way into Paddock Hill Bend, and a mistake there from the second place car. That will leave the gap open, and the inside line is now with Bowmont, but we've already seen in this race that Chappell is very late on the brakes despite having the outside line. He can't do anything to defend the position this time though. The rain falling harder and harder. Up to second place now comes Charles Bowmont. So this is back where he started into second place. It's taken him 4 or 5 laps to get there, but he hasn't lost too much time to the race leader. He needs to defend here though from Chappell, who breaks too late on the way into Druids, loses the back end, and through he goes, oversteers through the corner. And that will mean number 7 comes through, Glenn Freeman, to pick up third place and get himself back up into the podium paying positions. And Chappell recovers, and a big moment there, flat out down Paddock Hill Bend. Again, that is number 55 Simon Johnson, but that was great car control to keep his 1600cc Caterham pointed in the right direction, so he survives that one. Meanwhile, the top 2 now come through, and look, it's getting very slippy out there for these drivers. It's their first race experience, and it will be their first experience of driving in these wet conditions. And there's another spinner there just behind. That's the number 88 car of Oliver Lymington. So these conditions will be a real test for these drivers. On the brakes up at Druids, one in the gravel. That's David Elliott, who had such a good start to this race. He'll survive and get out of the gravel. Also into a spin, number 10, Samantha Finn. She too keeps the engine running, and somebody else going off in the background there. That's number 32, Mark Lewis, who started on the second row of the grid and was running well inside the top 6 here in this race, but didn't lose too much time there. Here are the top 2. They survived. They've had their moments. And Elliott Norris, number 11. Oh, look at that, a big power slide as he comes out of Clark Curve. And look at the number 77 car now. Charles Bowmont has got a terrific run coming out of Clark Curve. They're absolutely side by side. The trouble for Bowmont is he's going to have to go the long route around here into Paddock Hill Bend, and just about closing the door and gritting his teeth and holding on to that position is Elliott Norris. But he's got a real fight on his hands here in the closing stages of this race, and they've got back markers to deal with now as well. On the brakes then, absolutely neck and neck as they head into Druids on a spinner right in front of the race leader. Elliott Norris delayed there, did well to avoid contact with the spinner. This now means that the green machine of number 77, Charles Bowmont, gets into the lead, out of shape because he was offline. Is Elliott Norris. Here's a replay. And watch this, nowhere to go for the race leader. It was number 23, the blue and pink car of Mark Cox, that spun, and he did incredibly well to avoid contact there, but it just threw him offline, and Charles Bowmont is gifted the race lead. Is there time for Norris to fight back? Probably not, and especially not if he keeps sliding like that. Getting onto power too early coming out of Clark Curve. Charles Bowmont then all the way back up into first position, and the checkered flag falls. What a great race that was. Just 1.5 seconds between the top 2. Glenn Freeman comes home in third place. Achille Corbellati, Gary Dixon and Paul Hawthorne round out the top 6. Many congratulations then to our podium finishers, Charles Bowmont, Elliott Norris and Glenn Freeman. And on the podium to speak to our race winner is Lucia Cowan.
Charles, fantastic race there considering it's your first ever. How does it feel?
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. I mean, I had a terrible start. I spun the wheels off the front row of the grid, missed second gear and found myself in 8th coming into the first corner. From there, it was just a case of then just picking my way through people. I had a bit of an incident coming into the Paddock Hill Bend when Rob, Elliott and I were all 3 abreast coming into probably one of the toughest corners in motorsport, and luckily I managed to nip up through the inside of Robert on Druids, and then it was a case of then having a scrap for the next 5 laps with Elliott.
So the Caterhams get the BRSCC Brands Hatch race day off to a flying start, and after the break expect more of the same from the mighty Minis.